I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all go? How do we know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien, two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.
So, hello again and welcome to another episode of Quick Question with Soren and Daniel, the podcast where two best friends and comedy writers ask each other questions and give each other answers. I am one half of that podcast, senior writer for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, author of How to Fight Presidents, and damp boy Daniel O'Brien, joined as always by my co-host Mr. Soren Bowie. Soren, say hello!
Hey everybody, I'm Soren Bowie. I'm a writer for this show, American Dad. It's on my shirt if you are just listening to this and you heard that weird pause. And I would say like almost dry to a fault.
Okay.
Yeah, I get this like hand stuff where like my hands start to crack and everything. And in general, when I'm working out, I tend to overheat because my body just doesn't sweat a ton.
Yeah.
Is this? I assume that's what you're talking about. It's that time of year where you get just sort of moist in general.
Just damp all the time.
Thanks to Rocket Money for supporting our podcast. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/QQ.
We're in the middle of, or like right at the start of a heat wave out here, and shortly before recording, I took a shower and then put headphones on, and there's just nothing. Headphones just lock in. Apparently, heat escapes through my ears, and the headphones really trap it all in.
Do you take off your headphones at the end of these, and they're just ringed with wetness?
Yeah, I mean, I take them off, I toss them in the garbage, and then I wait for my next shipment of single-use headphones to come back.
But then you got to go pour out the garbage in the garden because it's just full of soup, Daniel soup.
Absolutely.
No, So this used to be a problem when we would be on set all the time, where they would put some spirit gum on Daniel to attach a wig, a mustache, like anything that prosthetics, and Daniel would be like, "Listen, before you begin, you got to know this thing is going to come off." And they're like, "No, it doesn't. This is spirit gum, sir. This is very sticky stuff." Yeah. And Daniel would be like, "Okay, I gave you the warning."
This is what NASA uses to keep the Challenger together. And I'm like, all right, well, this is going to have a similar fate.
And it would. I mean, throughout shooting, whatever you were wearing would just sort of peel off of you eventually.
We had a hair and makeup person who is like easily the top 3 of sweetest people I've ever met in my entire life. And my sweat broke her. She got mad. It was like several hours of her reapplying a fake mustache for a sketch and being like, no worries. And then at a certain point, things changed. And I had to be like, this isn't my fault. You're directing all of your anger at me. I don't like this either. I'm not doing this on purpose.
We shot a series in space. Not real space, but it was pretend. And we had to wear spacey outfits. And we all wore what were essentially neoprene wetsuits on set. Yeah. And that was Cody, you, me, Katie, and you guys.
Brennan.
And Brennan. Oh, what was Brennan's last name? I don't remember.
Who could say?
Tall Brennan, not little Brennan. And everybody got just soaking wet. Like you could see it through the neoprene, which is tough. Like it's tough to sweat so much that like you start getting wet from the inside of a neoprene suit, and it makes it all the way to the outside. Me dry as a bone. In that thing, but also probably at a temperature of 102 in there. Just slowly dying inside of it.
Speaking of wetness, Soren, I've got a tale for you to lead into a quick question. Are you ready to start the show?
This sounds horny. Is that going to be a problem?
No, I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's not. Dear Penthouse, here I was, home alone, My refrigerator.
Speaking of
it was not like my refrigerator was not like completely broken. It just like pools of water would appear over time in like the bottom crisper drawers, essentially, and sometimes enough of it would like seep into like the actual bottom of the fridge. It never was enough to leak down into the floor, onto the floor or anything like that. We would just notice, we would open like our crisper drawer and there's a centimeter or so of water that had accumulated. We would dump it out for a while. I looked into what this probably was, and my best friend YouTube had guided me to what likely the cause is. Which
well, maybe you should be doing this podcast with YouTube, Daniel. What am I doing here if it's your fucking best friend?
That's a really good point. I think the only thing is, if I actually did the podcast with YouTube as an entity, that would be like I think an AI thing, and I'm not allowed to. In a couple years, when we are allowed to like AI, or when we're forced to like AI, then you're out. Then it's me and YouTube, and sayonara Soren.
Old Soren still got some shelf life left.
Yeah, you're the last carriage.
I derailed you completely. Go on.
No, it's okay. The probable cause, there's like a panel on the inside back of your fridge, and if you take that out, there's a bunch of like cooling tubes and stuff, and there's a tray thing that is supposed to drain all fluids out the back to stop this from happening. If your fridge is cold enough, that could get frozen over, and the solution could be as involved as like getting a replacement part there, or it could be as simple as like taking that panel off, chipping away at the ice, and then melting the ice out to free open that tube again to stop water from pooling and collecting and spilling. It is a simple enough repair that I thought I probably could have done it on my own, but one of the things that stopped me was I was like following along a YouTube tutorial, and like, clear out your fridge, take all this stuff. This might take a while, so you might want to put your fruits and vegetables and your cold stuff in your second fridge. And I was like, oh, well, fuck me, first of all. My second fridge. Ooh la la.
What am I, a duke? Yeah.
And then they're like, once you take off this panel, then you're going to see, here's the part that you need to melt all the ice away. So then you're going to go and you're going to get your industrial steamer. And I was like, all right, well, that's two things I just casually don't have. So I think this is repair beyond me. I could do it with a hairdryer and a lot of time, but I didn't want to do that. And also, we are renting this place, and I'm trying to get myself out of the habit of doing home repairs on a home I don't own, because I am running out of time where home repairs will be free for me. So I told my landlord, and we had the repairman come into the home. He looked at the fridge, and he diagnosed the problem, which was the same thing that I and YouTube had agreed was the problem. And then he told me to call the landlord, so we got the landlord on speaker, and he told him how much it was going to cost, and the landlord was like, oh, that is very expensive. I didn't think it was going to be that expensive. All right, let me shop around. Let me talk to some other repair people and see if they can get a better deal on this. And the guy was like, okay, just so you know, the way our process works, the way it works is you called us, so I can't leave here unless you say yes or no, you want to do the repairs with me. Because if you say no and then change your mind, the process starts over again. The company will send out another person to diagnose the problem, charge you for a day, and then ultimately lead to the same conclusion. So you can say no, but it's going to start the whole process again if you change your mind. Or you could say yes, I'm not allowed to leave this unit unless you say that. And my landlord is like, I've never dealt with anyone who has had this kind of system before. It's a little frustrating, but fine, I'm going to say yes. And the guy was like, great, I'll send you over the processing order right now. They get off the phone, he sends it. I'm meanwhile texting my landlord like, I'm really sorry about this. I've also never dealt with anyone. That's an insane procedure. And the guy is now still in my unit, even though we said yes to the repairs. And I'm just chatting with him idly for a little while, waiting for him to leave, because it's like the middle of a work day for me. And I'm just like, where are you from? Was this a far drive for you? Blah, blah, blah. Do you like the area? Great. And then we sit in silence for a while, and he goes, so I sent the processing order, and your landlord still hasn't paid it. And I was like, yeah, that's life sometimes. It's like,
Yeah.
I can't leave this unit until he pays me.
What is this,
like,
the Mafia?
oh,
what is going on?
This is insane to me. And he was like, I emailed your guy, I texted him, and he hasn't gotten back to me. And I was like, okay. So I texted him, and I was like, hey, this guy needs you to like do a thing real quick. And no response. We're sitting there for a bit longer. And I call the landlord, and I was like, hey, it's me. This man is still in my home, and he won't leave until you approve this. And he was like, yeah, I did approve it. I was like, no, but you need to pay him the money, or he is just here now. And I'm like smiling because the guy is in the kitchen with me, and I'm like, he's sharing my space with me.
Yeah.
And won't leave until you click pay on whatever link he sent you. And then my landlord's like, I'm like 30 miles out on my boat right now. I'm like, that's cool. One guy is allowed to hold me hostage, and another guy is out on his boat. I'm the only one losing out in this scenario, and I'm really unhappy
Suddenly
about it.
a centimeter of water isn't looking so bad.
Right. And then my landlord is like, okay, let me see if I can like click a button on my phone to process this payment, and hopefully that'll work. And he hangs up, and I'm thinking, yeah, you could definitely press a button on your phone. That's how all phones work now. Your phone has email. You can click a button. But we're still, there's no like guarantee.
Dollar bills into it. Printer or something like that.
There's no guarantee that I'll have service for that on the boat. So now I'm just standing there with this guy still. It's so long doing nothing in my kitchen with this man.
Holy shit.
At one point he was like, another option we have is I can cancel the payment with your landlord, and I could charge you, and then you can pay, and your landlord can reimburse you. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, we won't be doing that. I won't also lose money today, even though I've lost time and patience. So we're just like gonna stand there and wait. And I didn't know what to say with this strange man. Yeah. And we had time to kill. I already asked him where he lived, so I couldn't go back to that well. And I just started thinking of like, what is a conversation starter that I could have with this complete stranger?
What's a good conversation?
Yeah, what are like things people talk about? And so I said, I like went real wide with it, and I was like, hey, do you believe there are aliens? Just took a real wild shot, and he goes, not really.
Oh,
so that killed that one.
Oh, that would have been that's a really good swing, because if that
so
lands,
too.
That's like, it's fun all of a sudden.
I just had to be like, yeah, me too, I guess. I mean, I think it would be cool, but yeah, I guess my answer is probably not really. And then I was still like reeling off, like, I was going to ask him if he broke bones, or like was very close to like, so you ever been like moved by a piece of art? Whatever. You can say no. Okay. And then eventually my landlord did get back and process the payment, and so the guy could leave, just finally leave me in peace and quiet with my broken refrigerator. But it got me thinking about the show. What are your like very broad general conversation starters? Because you are really good at that kind of thing. Yeah. And like there are some that I've stopped going to, like the where you're from is pretty helpful. If you have common ground on that place. I've stopped talking about, like, sports used to be a pretty good bonding topic, especially in like, I'm making a lot of generalizations that very often come true, but like in this situation where I'm in New Jersey, where I live, dealing with a repairman, it's typically a safe grounds to be like, New York Football Giants, you want to talk about the Giants? Like that used to be a very reliable well to go to. But the last time I had a technician in my old place to deal with cable stuff, I brought up the Giants, and he was like, hell yeah, I love the Giants. And then he immediately pivoted into talking about how a black player on the Giants was being ungrateful. And I was like, oh, this isn't, now we're enemies. This isn't, this is no longer a good conversation. Like, it's not a safe conversation to have with anyone, because suddenly it's going to turn into a fight that the whole point of small talk is to avoid conflict.
Right. It's supposed to be innocuous. Yeah. Okay.
So now that I've talked for a full uninterrupted 13 minutes,
I'm really excited by this story. because the bad guy kept changing in the story, and I love those. I love it when I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I'm locked in. It's your landlord, got it. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't the landlord anymore, and then it was the landlord again as soon as I knew he had a boat. Well,
right, because I like briefly considered texting him to be like, this is a lot of money for this repair. I'm almost positive I could do it myself because I saw it on YouTube. But then when he spins back with, I'm 30 miles out on my boat, I'm just like, well, you know, boats are fast. Turn it around, buddy.
Yeah.
This guy is much closer to me than 30 miles, and I don't want him to be here anymore.
Yeah, all that passive income must be great. Why don't you deal with some of your
How do you pay for your boat,
right
Steve?
Why don't you handle some of your passive fucking income at the moment so that you can keep going out on your boat? And also, I was immediately trying to diagnose your problem. As soon as you're like, I get a little bit of water at the bottom of the crispers, I was like, baby carrots. That'll do it every time. That's the problem. The baby carrots sweat, and you just get these pools of water at the bottom of your crispers. That's totally common. Yeah. And then also I was like, hearing that the back of your fridge, like the pipes froze.
Yeah. Well, the back on the inside of the fridge. Open the doors. The back panel.
Yeah.
On the inside of the fridge. I never had to go behind the fridge.
Okay. And do you know how to get it to? Once this is fixed, do you know how to get it to run cooler so that this never happens again?
I assume there are buttons that will do that for me, but I like my fridge at the temperature that it is.
Yeah. Sorry, before I even answer your question,
yeah,
I'm so amazed that there is a price that the manager found exorbitant, but was also still cheaper than just getting another fridge. That's like not a big window. That's a very small window. And even smaller, knowing that this guy is, he's a boat owner. This guy's got money.
Here's another question for you, Soren, because here's my entire refrigerator experience. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I had a unit that didn't have a fridge, and the landlord of that building sold me an old one that was already in the building for $50, which felt like the steal of a lifetime. And then when I moved from that place, I moved to a place that had a fridge already, like many places. And so I left the old fridge behind, and since then, everywhere I've moved has had a fridge. Right. So I've never... This isn't like...
You haven't priced fridges.
Right, I'm not... This isn't a question about being out of touch or anything like that. I've never had a reason to buy a fridge, except the one time when, no matter what they cost, I didn't have that amount of money. $50 for a fridge was like, yeah, it's either this or I go to Home Depot and buy a really big cooler, and I don't invite friends until my life gets sorted out.
Yeah, the tiers of fridges that you guys, like a double door fridge or like a stainless steel fridge where the freezer's on the bottom, or like the
that
freezer's
is exactly
in one
the
door.
fridge that I have.
Okay, those are like $1,700.
Okay.
So they're like over $1,000. But I would also, anytime that I have to get a repair done, I'm fully expecting that repair to be almost $1,000. Like, that's what I've now come to accept is like, oh, anything that gets done ever is going to be like $800. Like, there's nothing cheaper than that. So if this guy is like forcing you into the situation, if you're the property manager, I would just be like, no, I would rather not pay you anything and have to eat a little bit of extra money to just get a new fridge than to give you anything with this weird little reverse kidnapping situation you've created.
Yeah.
And man, it feels like there's got to be a different policy than that. Because let's just, for the sake of it, pretend that you are a woman, Daniel. And now there's a man in your house. You're alone, and he's refusing to leave.
A large man with tools.
A large man you don't know, a large stranger, is refusing to leave. And he says that it's company policy that I have to stay in your house. Like, that can't be true. Because that's like a lawsuit waiting to happen. That's like, you can't, because if you at any point are like, I insist that you leave, you have to leave, and they're like, I won't, that's like, now we're like getting into some weird legal territory.
Right. Because I don't have a button to press. I don't have any other recourse. Even if I had decided to be confrontational and said something like, listen, I understand policy is policy. That is, your deal is with my landlord. So you can stay on the premises. You can go outside and not go back to your truck until this is over, but you cannot stay in my home, which is also where I work. But I didn't say that. I said, do you think aliens are real?
Yeah, that's a cool question.
Because
by the way,
like the safer choice.
I mean, that's a good one. Because if you just said ghosts, there's a certain amount of judgment that comes with that. But aliens, there's a good chance there's aliens, man. There's a really good chance that there are aliens out there.
And I would say, like, yes opens up some conversations. No opens up some conversations. Not really is maybe the funniest answer a person could give to do you believe in aliens? Because it's like, it's just dismissive enough that you can't continue the conversation. Where it's like, I don't know what I think because I haven't thought about it, and I'm not going to start now. Probably not, but like, don't engage any further. It's
it's a shame. It would have been really nice had he said, I don't believe in aliens. And then like at some time had passed, he had been like, but I could be convinced.
Yeah. Because then we've got a thing going.
What do you have for me? Go ahead and share it. I bet if you were to go through all of the subscriptions that you currently have, you would be shocked by some of the ones you are still subscribed to. I found out I subscribed to a news outlet that I don't think even exists anymore, but is still collecting money from me. Something I probably used in my old crack days when I was trying to do research for an article, and I was like, I'll do a free trial. And then I just stayed there. And they might have gone bankrupt, but they're still getting $5 a month from me. Rocket Money helped me determine that. Most Americans think they spend about $62 per month on subscriptions. But get this, the real number is closer to $300. That is literally thousands of dollars a year, half of which we're probably forgetting about. Thankfully, I started using Rocket Money, and they found a bunch of subscriptions I'd forgotten about, and then helped me cancel the ones that I didn't want anymore. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, I have full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and I can see the ones that I don't want. And if I don't want them, I don't have to deal with some customer service agent. Rocket Money does it for me, and they will negotiate some sort of refund on my behalf if they feel like I've been unjustly charged. I love how the dashboard shows me the month's spending compared to last month so I can clearly see my spending habits. Plus, they'll help me create a custom budget and keep my spending on track. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions. So, stop wasting your money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/QQ. That's rocketmoney.com/QQ. rocketmoney.com/QQ. I have a family friend. They're like my second parents, essentially. Like I would go to their house every day after school as a kid because they lived in town and I did not. And so like getting just like the logistics of like trying to get a kid anywhere in a relation when like the child lives in a log cabin in the woods is very tough with school and everything. So like I would go to their house after school. Sometimes they would be there, sometimes they wouldn't. But I grew up with these people, and I was just home recently in Colorado, and I was talking to my second mom, and she brought up aliens and like UFOs specifically, and like the declassification of UFO stuff. And she was like, that would be a great thing for you to talk about on your podcast. And I was like, oh, that's funny. Yeah, that is kind of funny. She's like, I'll send you more information. And it slowly becomes clear to me as she's sending me more things. I have this anagnoresis where she's like, it's clear that she believes in it and she wants me to believe in it, and she wants to spread awareness about it through the podcast.
Right.
And I was like,
which is like, which is a very specific belief system to have. I don't want to pass any judgments on that. I will pass judgments on what she thinks the function of this podcast is.
Yeah. We could reach anyone.
It has barely spread the word on Soren and Daniel. Yeah. We can barely
the titular characters also still not getting a lot of a big blip on the radar when we play these episodes. She's a wonderful person, by the way, and very interested in like care, in like caring for other humans, caring for the planet and everything. But every once in a while there's these left turns where I'm like, where was this born from? Like this belief in UFOs, like alien, not just aliens, which I think, yeah, good chance they're aliens. but that there are aliens that are here checking on us, and like we need to let everybody know. I was like, I don't know where this one goes. Yeah. I don't know how this fits in with everything else that I know about you. Anyway, it's on the podcast now.
We did it.
So now I'm going to answer your question. You asked me, what are some good conversations? How do I start conversations well with strangers? And you've seen me in the past. You've seen me hunting. You've seen me like be in a room with somebody where like neither one of us knows what to say. And I will just start talking and then like ask them questions and just find something that I can just sink my teeth into. And then we're off to the races. Right? Mm-hmm. I don't really do where are you from anymore because I've stopped traveling. I don't even know anything about where I grew up. People will be like, hey, where should I go in Aspen? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't been there in 2 decades. I don't even know the restaurants that are left.
It was certainly an easier question when I was in Los Angeles and everyone was from somewhere else and I had done enough traveling that I might have things to say. Now, when I'm in New Jersey, everyone I talk to is also from New Jersey, roughly the same county. And there's not much to say beyond, me too. Yeah.
So there's a new one that I do. But you have to you really have to feel it out first to make sure this is the right kind of person. But when it works, it just works so well. And it's something that's happened accidentally. I was at a neighbor's party and she was like hosting and she was getting everything out for us. Like there's a charcuterie board and stuff like that. And at one point she stood up and interrupted 2 people who were having a conversation and just said, does anyone have a wish? And I was like, what? What she meant was she was going inside and she was getting stuff. And she was like, does anybody have a need or like something like that? But the way that she had phrased it, she just chose the wrong thesaurus word. And she was like, does anyone have a wish? And I was like, yes. To have that as my conversation starter from this day forward. Thank you very much for granting it. And so now, when a conversation
does anyone have a wish? No, not anymore. I got it. I got mine.
Now, when the conversation has a lull, I will. And it's like if I felt it out right, I will say, "So, do you have a wish?"
That's so
and
good.
The reactions that I've gotten have been like across the board great. They've been wonderful. People being like, "That's a crazy question." Yes, I do. Because there was one before that I tried out a couple times and it failed spectacularly. And it's probably because I stole it from Nathan Fielder. He's in a car with a guy doing a stakeout. And at one point he asked the man, do you have any secrets? Which is also a very fun question that you don't expect a real answer to. But do you have a wish is like people are more than willing to share that. And it's oh my God. It's just like the answers you get are amazing. They run the gamut.
The secret one is something that I stumbled onto as a strange, very devious power that I've just decided I can wield every once in a while. We were on a shuttle coming back to the hotel from our dear friend Michael Swaim's wedding, and there were enough tipsy people around and people on other things that I felt pretty safe getting some honest answers to this question. So I was like, it would be fun if we just went around and what is a secret that you've never told anyone from youth that you will tell me now? And then people just did it because A, there's drinking involved, and B, there was I came at it with so much confidence that it was just okay, yeah, I guess I will tell a little secret. And then they just went in and I have a lot of secrets now from
Incredible.
Friends of ours, from people we know, and I'm just okay, now the game is over, and the winner is me, keeper of secrets. Good night, everyone. Thanks for playing.
There's something so exhilarating to bending to the will of somebody else just by choice.
Yeah.
When the consequences could be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Just be
Our friend Katie Stoll, who our recent co-host of this podcast, she didn't have any secrets on the shuttle, and then the next day she had left a voice memo on my phone, and she was like, I thought of a secret that I never told anyone, and it's
she
this.
recorded a secret.
This is so dangerous.
She recorded it. That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow, Daniel, congratulations on having all of those.
Yeah, of course. How do you think I got her to host this show with me? No one was taking it.
That's a real currency. My goodness. Yeah. So anyway, I will ask people if they have a wish. It has failed. It has failed in the past where people are like, "What?" And I'm like, "Do you have a wish?" And they're like, "I don't know." Yeah, I'm not going to engage in this.
Do people say like flat out, no? Not, I haven't really thought about it. Let me think about it. But like, no, as in, no, I don't have any wishes.
No, because
I like what I have, or like I refuse to engage in that kind of fanciful thinking.
I think anyone who is even if you're not superstitious or you don't believe in something higher than yourself or anything, nobody's going to test the universe that way. No one's going to be like, no, I don't have a wish. I'm good. Because and if there's somebody that you don't really know asking you that question, we've all read enough fairy tales that we're like, oh, I have to. There's a chance. Yeah. There's a chance that they can make my wish come true. Let's just get it out
there. Certainly always consider the source and make sure it's not a monkey paw situation. If someone, like if Soren was a stranger to me and all of his handsome glory was like, do you have any wishes? I'm like, I'm not going to say I wish to fly because then you're going to fucking throw me off a building. I know how this works. Calypso, get out of here.
Yeah. And so, but everyone will go, they'll entertain it. They'll entertain it. Either they have one and they're like, yep, this, and which is also very funny. Or they'll be like, oh, well, I don't know. Let me think for a minute. I guess. And then they'll come up with something. And then there's like this weird moment where like just getting it out there is enough. Like, I don't think that was their initial intention, but the initial intention might be, maybe I say it and it just happens. But just like saying it is enough. Like, oh, I feel like lighter. Like I feel good. I feel knowing what I want now.
I want to quit my job and leave my wife. Huh.
I highly recommend it. It's such a crazy question too, but like a crazy charming question that people do not get upset generally. I'll say generally. It has gone wrong at least once.
Now, I know that when you ask that question, people are going to turn around either before or after they answer and ask you if you have a wish. Yeah. And I imagine you have something ready for that question.
No, I don't. Because it's so much more fun if they are going to not come up with something organically. Like if it was like on the podcast, I would just be like, here's a really funny blow to this scene. Like here's like a real a bear with an Uzi or like something like that. Like whatever you want that like this is going to be like a really funny thing that I have thought about, but it would kill a conversation. So if you genuinely want this conversation to keep going, they ask you back and you go, oh, and then you genuinely think like in that moment, like what would I want? And it helps it keep going.
Incredible. Well, I think I've got a good answer to a quick question for the first time in the history of this podcast, maybe.
Daniel, do you have a wish?
I was really hoping we could move on and you could not ask me that. Because I have like a bunch of correct answers in my head about climate change and food sustainability. And I know they're the right answers, but I also know they're the wrong answers. And I also have a bunch of true answers, and they're the wrong answers too.
I've given answers before to this question that we've come up with on the podcast, by the way. Where like you're like, what if you could be 10% better at something? Like I'll just answer with one of those types of things. Like I do say to somebody, I wish I could sing. And they're like, tell me more about that. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, singing, dancing, one of those would be good. Fluent Spanish, always good.
Spanish. Talking to your dog.
Yeah, sort of like instant meditation or like having a calm button inside of me for stressful situations. That'd be pretty good. World peace, final answer. Fuck.
Yeah, good one.
I don't even actually want that.
It would be wonderful to actually come up with like just a bunch of these to have, so that when somebody asks, and like just choose an emotion to go along with it at random. I would say have a list of things, a list of how you feel about it, so that when you answer, you can be super angry and be like, "I wish there was a way to go down on women where I didn't look like a kid coloring on the floor."
Jesus Christ.
With my legs flipped up in the air behind me, just waving around.
Where she
like
can
I'm
see
reading
what my lower back is doing, but I can't. That's not fair.
like I'm
What's it
reading
look like back there?
like I'm reading a book on the beach. I don't like it. There's got to be a better way. Yeah, but I've not done that. Okay. So, sorry to put you on the spot with that question, Daniel. Did you hate it?
No, it's all right. I had plenty of time to anticipate it.
Yeah.
I was just basking in how good a question it was.
Yeah, save it and use it, man. It's great. Maybe I'll use it at your wedding.
Oh, what do you mean?
I'm gonna be meeting a lot of people.
I can't. Oh, okay.
I'm going to be sitting next to them at tables where like the food isn't out yet, or we're waiting to go to the line, and I'm meeting somebody brand new, and we're just sitting there.
Yeah.
Be very fun to turn
That's
to somebody
fair.
like that,
Yeah.
like a djinn, and be like, "Do you have a wish?" I'm going to be dressed like a genie, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you that. Just gold shackles on my hands, nothing else.
You're going to meet a lot of people from Heart of America, New Jersey, and Heart of America, Illinois, who are going to be like, "Oh, this is one of the LA friends, the guy who keeps asking people about wishes. That's one of his Los Angeles creative friends."
Right. For anyone who just listens to this podcast, you're going to get that just looking at me, that I am one of the LA friends. It's going to be pretty clear immediately that I am one of the LA friends. All right. Well, Daniel, I have something that I want to talk to you about.
Okay, great.
It's
Do it.
It's a little heavier, but it's something that I think is very interesting and funny about my children. We've talked previously. I think I had asked you about when you discovered like the real idea of death when you were young, and my son. I told a story about my son when there was a possum under my house that was dead. Just to like remind people, he was very young. He wanted to see it because we could smell it. He wanted to see it, so I took him down to the crawl space. I don't know why, because I don't want to hide anything from him, and I showed him, and he was interested in it. And then from that point on, like I would try to have conversations with him where I'd be like, "Where do you think things when things die? Where do you think they go?" And he'd be like, very seriously, he'd say, "To our basement." I was like, "Oh, that's dark. I hope not."
That's dark. I understand why you got that idea, but also, if anyone else in the world asks you that question, do not answer that way.
Yeah, you can't say that. You just gotta say, "I don't know." And so, he wanted to hear about the possum a lot. He wanted to remind me about it. He just like wanted to talk about it because he was just like working through it. So now I have another child who is in the age where she's sort of discovering the idea of death. And I'm a little jealous of her understanding of death because, first of all, she's 100% on reincarnation. I don't even know where that came from because I don't think we presented that as like one of the possibilities.
Yeah.
But she's like, a lot of times when a conversation lulls, she will be like, "Dad, next time, can I be a bird?" And I'll be like, "I don't have the authority, but I hope so. Sure. I bet that if you if you want that enough, you could." And
I was
when
trying
she
to
means
see if
next
this
time,
is like maybe a Lion King thing, because I know you guys watch that a whole lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but even the circle of life is just things that die become grass, and then the antelope eats. We eat the antelope. Antelope
Yeah.
dies, becomes grass. Antelope eats the grass. We
or
die,
you
we
become
grass.
stars. You become a constellation. If
Yeah,
you're royalty.
but they never explicitly say like, and then maybe one day you, Simba, will be an antelope. So
No.
yeah, I don't know.
Still definitely into Lion King, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. But she was like, and bird is always it. She's like, "Next time, can I be a bird?" And I'm like, "I bet." And she wants to be. She's like, next time, can I be a boy bird?" And I'm like, "Why? Like, what is it about being?" And so then I'm like, now there are new things that I'm like trying to get out of her. Like, okay, well, what is it about being a boy? Like, is this something that you generally want in your life? Like, I'm open to that. And when I finally get down to it, the reason she wants to be a boy is because she wants to be able to pee standing up, and that's kind of it.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, well, maybe we'll figure out some other solution to this problem.
Yeah.
But so that's right now the only advantage she can see to either sex is that one gets to pee standing up. And she's like, then that's the one. Like, why wouldn't
it's
I
not
do that?
unreasonable.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. It's pretty cool.
They do. I'm sure you know, because you've spent as much time in and around camping equipment as I have, but you know they have a thing for that. They have like a device that women can strap on that fits snugly with a tube that comes out. So if you wanted to pee while standing, you had a funnel and tube situation that would allow for that.
I know that there are menstrual cups, but I didn't know that there was also a peeing device. I mean, we're derailed somewhat, but I'm interested in this. Because as my understanding is that, so when I pee, it is like a direct stream. Like there's like pressure behind it. It's a direct stream. But I've seen, not to brag, I've seen girls pee. It is like a leaky gutter. Like it's just like coming out all over. Like it's coming out of their, like it's like dripping down to their butt, and it's like it's coming out all over the place.
Right. This sort of centralizes and focuses it. And I don't believe this is a device that is like a hot seller because it's got great word of mouth recommendations as like a workable solution. I think it's a lot of curiosity and a lot of this is good utility when camping, but I don't think it's like a perfect system.
Okay. I have tried other things that did not work great, which was like a squatty pot, just like a little potty that kids learn to pee in. I was like, just stand over that, not realizing that it was just gonna like go right down her legs, like like an A-frame house, just like draining it all on either side, and like almost none in the toilet. But I will find something. I'm gonna help her, or we'll help her figure it out somehow. But anyway, the thing that I'm most jealous about with her understanding of death is that she will frequently say, like, we'll talk about things that happened before she was born. Like, we'll talk about stuff that Ronan used to do. And she's very interested in hearing the history of the family and, like, knowing what Ronan was like as a baby. What was Mom like as a baby? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for that. She wants to know about when we got married. She wants to know if we put our hands on each other's shoulders. A question I don't understand, and I'm still trying to like get to the bottom of. Then she will say frequently, if we tell a story and it's she doesn't know like where she is in the story, or like we're not explicitly mentioning her, she will say, "Was this when I was still dead?" And I'm like,
Jesus.
Oh, that's I love that. Feeling it like that way, that wherever you were before you were alive, you're just going to go back there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where that was, but it was somewhere, and like then now you're here.
It wasn't painful. It wasn't painful, and you didn't mind it, and it didn't hurt, and you weren't sad,
and you weren't wanting. You weren't like, I wish I could be alive, or at least you didn't carry any of that with you into life, and then. And then you'll go back there. And so she will frequently ask, was I still dead? And I'll be like, yeah, you were still dead then. And I'm like, oh, okay. I think I got to try to like figure out how to marry that with my own understanding of death and knowing that I'll just go back to wherever I was. That's fine. It's not so scary. But she doesn't, that's the thing, other thing, she does not seem scared by it at all, which is a real fun thing, a real fun color on kids when, as they're trying to understand death, they don't have a real crystal clear picture of why that's terrifying. They're just like, oh, it's just another thing. I'm like, yeah, it's just another thing.
Why would death be scary? I have no control over my life.
Yeah, I've been here for 4 years. This place means nothing to me.
I'm shuffled around by a series of giants all the time.
Dad, I want you to think about a single problem in your life and decide, have you been dealing with that for over 4 years? Yeah? That's my whole life. Like, you've chosen to live like that. But yeah, anyway, I was very interested to hear that. It's fun. It's fun so maybe if you have children that you like have to run into, and you're also in a situation where you are just sort of quietly waiting for something, see if you can eke that out of them. Figure out what their philosophy is on death,
right?
Because they're just going to make it up themselves generally, and it's real fun.
I feel like my approach to my children will be very similar to my approach to the repairman, where there will be, we don't have common ground yet, so I'm just gonna sit my kid down and be like, so, what do you think happens when we die?
Yeah.
What do you think fish think about? Do octopuses dream? Discuss.
Yeah. It is really fun. A lot of times my son now will just be like, I don't know. He just
Rats.
doesn't want to engage in it, but he used to. You just got to catch him in the right window.
Yeah.
I want to quickly go back to the fact that when she talks about marriage, she talks about putting hands on each other's shoulders.
Yeah. What could that be?
I think this might be from The Little Mermaid, which is a movie we
Okay.
saw recently. And when they're getting married, I think they embrace. And maybe in the cartoon, because they're so close, it's a two-shot, right? Right? Like you're only getting their faces and like some of their lower bodies. And maybe in the embrace, it looks like they're holding one another's shoulders when they first get married, and then they kiss. And she was very interested in that. She saw them kiss, and she saw them turn their heads and kiss. And she was like, can we do that? And I was like, no, that's not how we do it. But it was just a thing that she saw that looked nice. And she was like, oh, I'd like to try that. And like was just memorizing things about that moment. And one of the things was, I think that she thinks that when you get married, you put your arms on the other person's shoulders.
Yeah.
I was like, that's adorable. Yeah. I mean, kind of, maybe by accident a little bit.
Yeah. That's not the main thing that we're going for. But it happens. Shoulder might catch some stray affection.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I was
going to ask if
Go ahead.
if if your family had gotten into the habit of catching like the junior versions of musicals, because that's like a whole swath of things that exist. There are musicals that get written for Broadway or other big theaters. Your standard 2+ hour musical with an intermission, and then it's a very lucrative business where some of them can get turned into like the junior version of that, which is like less than an hour, one act usually, with some of the language taken out and some of the harder songs taken out, and just like more basic fairy tale version of these musicals. And a lot of them, there's a sweet spot of like a show with a big cast with a bunch of songs and like very simple to understand moral lesson. There's a few of those that can be like successfully juniorified without removing enough themes that it becomes incomprehensible. But
Right.
a lot of those, just by nature of like a standard fairy tale-esque story, still involve like true love's kiss in some way, which is a thing when you're making a musical where your cast is going to be like 11 and 10-year-olds. You are not going to make them kiss. You still need to like recreate the idea of that in some way. So like sometimes they'll like have two characters stand in front of each other, and I've seen like versions of Shrek Jr. where they hold up a sign blocking them, and the sign just says "True Love's Kiss," and then the sign comes down. I've seen a junior version of Legally Blonde that hinges on, in like the movie and musical, an authority figure, a professor, inappropriately touches Elle Woods, the protagonist, in a way that like needs to scan for the audience. It's like it has to be like a lunge for a kiss or a grope in some way, something that an adult audience would easily grok, but something that like A, you can't ask kids to do, and B, you can't do something that's gonna scan as inappropriate for the audience sake. And so the lecherous professor character just put a hand on the shoulder of the Elle Woods character, and she was like, I don't want that. It's still like, it fulfills the requirement of being definitely unwanted touching, but for like the reality of the adult version of the musical would be like, just what, you're not, who would be mad about a hand on a shoulder? The kids version, you are as mad as they've done the most inappropriate thing in the world. And this was my long way of saying when she had asked, do you put your hands on shoulders at the wedding? Thinking, someone has seen Legally Blonde, the musical Junior.
she
knows what adults love to do.
we have not clocked that yet. It's it may also be her seeing, man, I just don't know where she would be getting it from, but like dancing too. Maybe she's not, because the idea of dancing to her is like you listen to Girl on Fire and you just like go nuts. But she doesn't know necessarily that there's like slow dancing and how that works. So she's seeing two people staring at one another who clearly like one another and they're choosing to be there. And it more or less looks like they have their hands on one another's shoulders. And that's just like, and now we're together. And so, she was trying to get the timeline of calling a night down. And we had just had our college reunion. And so we were trying to like explain why we were going to this college and like what happened there. And she does not get it. She's like, you and Mom got married there. And we're like, no, stop. No, we met there. And she's like, the idea that we did not know each other our entire lives is just not registering for her.
Yeah.
So her trying to like explain it to me was very funny. Her being like, and then Mom lived with Grandma and Grandpa, and you lived with Nini, and you got older, and then you both left, and you went somewhere else. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, because you wanted to meet each other, and then when you got there, you got married. And we're like, no, okay, no, back up, no. We missed some steps there. Just like it's not like it just does not register for her. Like we had to meet first, choose each other, and then get married. Like it's too foreign.
It occurs to me having this conversation that what a strange but like simple idea I had as a child about my parents meeting, because they met at work when they both worked at ShopRite, and so, which is a grocery store. I don't know how widespread it is, but so when 8-year-old Daniel was like, where did Mommy and Daddy meet? And they're like, why ShopRite? I'd be like, yeah, that makes it, yeah. Grocery store. That's one of the places, of course.
I've been there. I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Could happen.
All right.
This place is full of love. I get it.
Yeah.
Swept up in the romantic experience of ShopRite.
I figured it was either grocery store, the park, school, or our house. It had to be one of those places.
As soon as you said that, I was like, I actually don't think I know of any other places people meet. I met in one of those. I don't, if someone came to me now and they were like, how do I meet somebody? I'd be like, did you try going to college? That's all I think you have to go there and then you find somebody. I don't know. The grocery? Yeah, man. All right. Well, you know what? Let's end the podcast.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. That about wraps up our show. The show is called Quick Question, but you knew that already. We are recorded, edited, and produced by our president of podcast operations, Gabe Harder. Our theme song is by the incredible Mirex. Their digital album is available at mirex.bandcamp.com. And speaking of theme songs, we have another theme song for our Patreon only show. That's the show we do for our patrons, the people who pay to subscribe to our channel. There's a brand new theme song on that, and it slaps, so check it out there on our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/quickquestion. Soren and I are not on Twitter, but you can find the show there at QQ_Soren and Dan. You can find Soren and I both at Blue Sky. You can email the show at QQwithSorenandDaniel@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube if you've only been listening to this show and you want to see our faces. You can find us on YouTube. We release every episode as a video episode. And once again, for those Patreon subscribers, you get this whole show plus a special bonus, shorter, funner, wackier episode every other week. That is all of the information I have in front of me. It's almost sandwich time.
Thanks for bringing us home, Daniel. Oh, are you really having a sandwich today?
You got it. Yeah, it's crazy because you were like doing something that was either a bit or real life over the weekend, where you were texting me about musicals and a cappella groups. If it's a bit, I don't understand it, and so I'm not engaging with it because I know it'll frustrate you if I don't engage with it. But then
yeah,
I was
totally
like
frustrated.
I was realizing in a parallel way that it might not be a bit, because I took a look at my own life this weekend, and like, we have a home garden that is thriving, and is all I think and talk about is this garden we have. And yesterday we went to a sandwich place, and I had the best fucking sandwich of my life, and now I think I only want this sandwich. So I'm like a sandwich and gardening guy. And you're a musical
from the future.
a cappella guy.
We're switching places. This is our Freaky Friday. Yeah.
We do a body swap. But we just realized it seems like a lot of work to swap back, so I'll just stay here. We'll keep doing the podcast, and like Soren, I'll just import gardening and sandwich into this life. Otherwise, I'm fine with the way things are.
Yeah. I've been texting Daniel highly specific questions about Broadway that suggest my knowledge of the subject.
It stressed me out for reasons that I'll talk about off pod.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favourite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it ever? Where did all go? How do we know? Oh, forget it. Soren, Bowie, Daniel O'Brien, two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a